The Lion Men of Mongo, Chapter 6. Dale had landed about 5 minutes before Zarkov, and some 10 miles to the east. Her flying belt had functioned well, carrying her gently down and away from the stricken survey ship. She looked up at it for the first minute of her drop, watching it roar away from her, hoping Flash would be able to save the ship. She was concerned about him, but she knew he was capable of surviving even if the craft did crash. Dale concentrated on controlling her descent. She saw thick jungle stretched out below her in all directions. When she dropped another 1,000 feet, she saw a road cutting through the trees and brush, and immediately off the road a circle of clearing with a pool at its center. As good a place as any to land. The dark-haired girl misjudged her course slightly. At the last moment, she had to make some hurried corrections on the control buckle to avoid landing in the trees. As it was, she hit into a palm tree at the pool edge, did a wobbly spin in midair, and landed with one foot bent beneath her. Darn, feels like a sprain. Wincing, she turned off the belt, pushed down on the mossy ground with her hands. No, it's only a bad twist. She found she was still able to walk, though it was painful. Hoofbeats sounded out on the road. Dust came spinning across the clearing, skimming the wide pool. "Look what's dropped out of the trees, Alex," said the first horseman as he reined in. He was a large, chunky man, bearded and wearing a black cloak trimmed in gold. On his head was a gold helmet with a scarlet plume fluttering from its crown. Through an opening in the dark cloak, a breastplate of gold armor showed. Lovely. Alex was not quite as chunky as his companion, and his gold helmet was plumeless. "A very lovely find, Captain. One hardly expects to come across such a prize in this desolate stretch of the kingdom." "And was it not you, Alex, who wanted to meet our flying ship further up the river?" The captain laughed, still watching the dark-haired Dale. "Had we taken that course of action, we would have missed this maiden, who will surely be worth a commendation from the Emperor himself. Perhaps even a promotion for you, Captain." Dale took an unsteady step ahead. "Who are you?" The captain, laughing, touched his gloved hand to the gold helmet. "I am Captain Hakes of the Royal Police at your service, my girl. Accompanying me is my trusted lieutenant, Alex." Alex, gloved hands on the pommel of his saddle, leaned in the direction of the girl. "You are not from this territory," he said. "Where are you from?" "I'm part of an exploration team," Dale answered, moving her hand slowly toward the control panel of her flying belt. "We come, originally, from a planet called Earth." "We?" asked the chunky captain. "Where are the others?" "There was some trouble with our ship. We had to jump." "How many of you are there?" "3. "All, as yourself, young girls?" "No, I'm the only woman on the team." "Where are the others likely to land?" Dale hesitated. "I'm not certain." "Not nearby, apparently," remarked Alex. "You are indeed fortunate," Captain Hakes told Dale, "to have come under the protection of the Royal Police. Being unfamiliar with our kingdom, you do not realize what a dangerous and untamed area you find yourself in. Come along with us now, my girl." Dale shook her head. "I have to wait for the others," she said. "Here." "Nonsense! You'll be much more comfortable in the capital," the captain said. "Emperor Ming, by the way, is a man of considerable learning himself. He will be most anxious to talk to you and your friends." "Particularly you," added Alex, chuckling. "That sounds very nice," said Dale. "When my friends arrive here at this rendezvous spot, we'll all be happy to accept your invitation." "No need to wait," insisted the captain. "We can make arrangements for your associates to be met." "I'd prefer to wait." Captain Hakes nodded at his lieutenant. "Alex, persuade the young lady to accompany us." Dale jabbed the rise button on her flying belt. Captain Hakes swung from his saddle, gave a tremendous leap. He caught hold of Dale's legs before she had lifted more than 4 feet off the ground. The two of them hung suspended, neither rising nor falling, swaying in the air. With a clenched fist, the captain reached up and slammed at the controls. The belt made a sputtering sound. They both dropped to the ground. Captain Hakes stood up and away from the fallen girl. "I'd advise you to accept our invitation without any further delay," he told her. Chapter 7. Harn, Flash's guide, cried out in fright. "They will devour us!" Palm fronds, broken branches, leaves scattered down on them as the second gigantic salamander came thrashing into the trail. "This way," said Flash. Escape was still possible to their left. The bent man took several unsteady steps back from the fanged salamander, which cut off their further progress. He gave a frightened look to his side. As he turned to run in the direction Flash had indicated, his foot caught in a twist of shaggy vine. "I am undone!" he cried, as he went sprawling across the trail. The second salamander lowered its head toward the fallen man. "Ease yourself along the flat on the ground," advised Flash. "You can crawl over here." "My life is at its end, Outlander," said Harn, "for I cannot seem to disentangle my foot." Yeah, natural talk. Okay, well. The salamander's head was 3 feet above the struggling Harn. Its mouth gaped open, showing the curved fangs and a huge split tongue. Flash reached beneath his tunic. With his blaster pistol in his hand, he took 2 steps forward. "Keep your head down," he warned Harn. The pistol sent a sizzling shot at the attacking salamander. There was a faint, hollow, explosive sound, and the head of the giant creature turned to charred dust. "A miracle!" exclaimed Harn. "Great and powerful wizardry." The headless salamander thrashed and writhed, crashing into tree trunks and trampling brush. Then it fell dead. Harn rose up gingerly, tugged his trapped foot clear of the thick twist of vine. "His mate fears us now," he said, laughing his dry laugh. The other enormous salamander had moved away from them, returning to the safety of the jungle. After a glance around, Flash put his pistol away in his waistband. "Let's get going again, then." Harn came closer to him. "That is indeed a powerful weapon, Outlander," he said in a whispering voice. "Much more powerful than anything the royal police possess." He pointed at the tunic which concealed the gun. "You are wise to conceal it, for to be caught with such a weapon would mean certain death." "After a pretty good struggle." Nodding, the guide said, "You need not fear that I will betray you, Outlander, for now I owe you my life, and there is nothing Harn would not do for you." "Okay, then take me to the inn," said Flash. "I want to get to the capital as soon as I can." The bleeding heart, pierced with the silver arrow, showed through the swirling mist. Harn cocked his head toward the hanging inn sign. "We have arrived safely," he said to Flash. "All thanks to the gods that we did. Truly, had you not used your—" "I don't think," Flash cut in, "it will be a good idea to talk about our meeting with the salamanders any further." "Aye," agreed Harn. "You are absolutely right, Outlander." He began climbing the brick steps leading to the oaken door of the sprawling shingled inn. "For while you may trust Harn, there is no telling what others may do. All live in fear of Ming the Merciless in these times." Light and warmth spilled out of the open doorway. The room they entered was large, with a beamed ceiling and a big stone fireplace. There were a dozen round wooden tables around the room, a long serving bar against the near wall. 2 wide men in dark tunics and high-topped muddy boots sat at a table hunched over copper tankards of ale. One of the men wore a scarlet headband and had a single loop of silver dangling from his left ear. There were no other patrons at the Heart and Arrow Inn. Behind the bar, giving most of his attention to tapping a fresh keg of ale, was the proprietor. He was fat, with a striped apron tied around his flabby waist. He wore a leather vest which concealed only part of his hairy ballooning torso. "Ah, good evening to you, Harn," he said as he glanced their way. "We wish a private dining room." Harn trotted toward the bar. "My friend has traveled a good long way from far-off territory. He's worn and hungry. Blessing." He lowered his voice. "Later we would appreciate a small discussion with you." Fat Blessing said, "Take any room you fancy, Harn. As you can observe, we are not doing a thriving business this night." He leaned an enormous elbow on the bar top, tilting his shaggy bulk in Flash's direction. "Whereabout do you hail from, sir?" "A long way off," Flash replied. "Ah, you wish to be discreet," said the innkeeper. You'll find the Heart and Arrow a place which respects a man's privacy. Drumming his fingers slowly on the bar, Harn said, I think we must celebrate my friend's safe arrival. Do you have any of your special brandy left in stock, Blessing? The innkeeper's left eyelid fluttered for an instant. The special brandy, did you say? Aye, that I do, Harn. As the gods would have it, a new supply has found its way to me this very day. He gave Flash a jiggling smile. You must understand, sir, that this particular brandy is of such quality that our emperor would prefer to have the entire supply fight its way to the palace. However, now and again, a bottle or two reaches me by way of the great river. Ale will be sufficient for me, said Flash. Oh, nay, insisted Harn. I owe you a good deal, my friend, and you must allow me to make this grateful gesture. Flash grinned. Very well. We will dine in that room beyond the fireplace, Harn told the fat innkeeper. When you have the brandy ready, serve it there, if you will. You realize, sir, Blessing confided to Flash, I must keep such a rare drink well hidden. You will excuse me while I fetch it. The small dining room had whitewashed plaster walls, a beamed ceiling, and good-sized fireplace of its own. I'll fix things so we can warm ourselves, Outlander, said Harn as he shuffled to the fireplace. Kneeling, he put a wax match to the kindling beneath the crossed logs. There, it will be soon blazing heartily. Hem, coughed Blessing from the doorway. Here is the brandy. You will find, sir, it compares favorably with the best you have ever sampled. Of that I'm sure, Flash replied. Taking one of the glasses from the tray the fat man held out toward him. Harn took the remaining glass, sniffing at it. Ah, a wonderful scent to it. I will send a girl to take your order, said Blessing, as he withdrew and shut the door. Well, said Flash, raising his glass toward the guide. Cheers. Harn hesitated, rubbed at his stomach. You must forgive me, Outlander. Glass in hand, he backed unsteadily into a rough-hewn chair beside the wooden dining table. The shock of our recent brush with death has caught up with me. I feel I must sit quietly for a moment or two. Brandy's exactly what you need to snap out of your funk, Harn. I don't believe I can hold anything in my stomach at the moment, my friend. Please, though, you go ahead and enjoy your brandy. Very well, then. Flash turned to look into the now crackling fire. When he turned again to face Harn, the glass was empty. You were right. It's excellent. Harn, poised on the edge of his chair, watched him. What is wrong, Outlander? I don't... Flash swung one hand out. He dropped to his knees, then toppled over on his side and lay still. Chapter 8. I don't think we dare risk it, the huge innkeeper was saying. He sat, his thick legs spread wide, on a chair near the fireplace in the small dining room. There's no risk, I'm telling you. Harn paced the wooden floor, carefully avoiding the still sprawled Flash. I've had much practice deceiving Captain Hakes. Aye, but the captain surely knows this Outlander must have a weapon of exceptional sort, said Blessing. You told me yourself they found one on the girl's person while they were tying her. The captain surely will expect the blonde Outlander to have a similar weapon, admitted Harn. However, I will simply tell him of our struggle with the salamanders. The stranger's pistol was lost during the fearsome encounter. He gave one of his dry, rattling laughs. So anxious was I to deliver this fellow to him that I have not had a chance to return to search for the missing gun. When Blessing shrugged, ripples ran up and down his fat chest and stomach. It might work, Harn, yet... It will work, asserted the bent man. We will keep the pistol I saw him thrust in his waist. In fact, before we take him down to the wharf, we will search his knapsack. Wait now, Harn. One pistol we might perhaps keep, but no more. Harn laughed again, tapping his gnarled fingers against his chest. Beneath his tunic coins jingled. So far, Blessing, I have been paid a mere 50 mingots for entrapping this Outlander, yet it has required considerable effort. I had to wait long, dreary hours in the jungle. I had to use my nimble wits to invent a plausible tale with which to lure him here. I have even risked death. That, you must admit, is worth a good deal more than 50 mingots. You will receive another 50 when you deliver him to the Royal Palace airship, which is going to meet you at the wharf," pointed out the fat innkeeper. "Don't forget, by the way, I am to get a cut for my assistants." "Yes, yes," said Harn, brushing aside Blessing's last remark with his hand. "Think of the pistol, though, Blessing. It is far more effective, I assure you, than anything the Royal Police or the Imperial Army have." He crossed to the fire, held his hands out to it. "There's no calculating what price it might bring in certain quarters. I am sure the sorcerers would like to bid on it, and most certainly the Lion Men." "Lion Men," snorted Blessing. "Threadbare rebels who live like savages in the wilds and dream of the overthrow of Ming? Why, they could not afford the price of a dinner at the Heart and Arrow, let alone something such as that pistol." "You forget that during the war men tell lies," said Harn. "It is known as propaganda. The Lion Men have supporters, you may be sure, supporters who can more than afford to buy the Outlander's pistol from us." He rubbed his warmed palms together. "There is also Prince Baron himself." The fat innkeeper shook his head. "He and his followers are still cowering in the Forest Kingdom, Harn, fearful of the wrath of Ming." "Perhaps, or perhaps that, too, is merely propaganda," said Harn. "At any rate, I will take his pistol. Now. For I have but little time to hide it safely before we carry this Outlander down to the wharf." "He's going to be heavy, I wager," said Blessing. "Lately, whenever I lift anything heavy, I get this frightful pain all across—" "Let me save you the trouble, then," said Flash, bounding to his feet. "And here, Harn, is the pistol you're so anxious about." He pointed the weapon at the approaching guide. "What does this mean?" muttered Blessing. "It means, you blubbery fool," cried Harn, "the knockout potion you put in his drink was not strong enough." "Not at all," Flash grinned. "It means I poured the brandy into the fireplace and only pretended to be unconscious. I had an uncle back on the planet Earth who warned me never to drink with strangers. Now then, Harn, the money." "What are you alluding to, Outlander?" "The coins you were rattling a moment ago. I'm going to need some local spending money. Hand them over." "I'm afraid you 5 more seconds and I'll take them off your corpse," Flash told him. He had no intention of killing the man, but he knew such a bluff would work with Harn. "Very well, if you would rob a man of the fruits of his toil." Harn slid a hand into his tunic. "If anything but money comes out, Harn, that means you're dead too." "They are in a pouch of leather, Outlander, given to me by my careworn grandmother on the money." Slowly Harn handed the pouch to Flash. "You surely have no chance, Outlander. The Royal Police know the young woman had 2 men with her. They will not rest until they have the both of you." "As of now, they only have the girl?" "So I have been led to believe." "And she is in the capital?" "Aye, where you also will soon be," said Harn. "Only you will be in a cell deep underground, and she—" "Blessing," interrupted Flash. "I did only as I was bidden, sir. There's really no need to kill me." Flash reached back into his rucksack, brought out a small coil of plastic rope. "Tie up your friend here." "Nay, he's no friend of mine," Blessing said. "Why, I barely know the fellow." "Tie him up and gag him well," ordered Flash. "Then I'll do the same for you. Be quick about it. I have an appointment with the Royal Police." Chapter 9. The man in the high tower stood watching the vast city spread out below in the darkness. A city of towers, spires, minarets, and pennants, illuminated with hundreds of floating globes of pastel light. "I often think," he muttered, "that the people of Mongo are singularly lacking in gratitude." He gestured at the huge window with a spidery hand. "I give them such a lovely, gracious capital for their empire, and yet—" He sighed, crossed the circular room to a highly polished round table to pick up several sheets of flimsy paper. "The spirit of rebellion and dissatisfaction continues on the rise." He dropped into a high-back throne-like chair on a dais next to the table, steepled his fingers in front of his lean, sharp-featured face. "I'm afraid there's nothing to do but increase the public executions." Seated in a lower chair was a burly man with a close-cropped hair. The Minister of Police. A wise remedy, Ming, he said. Though perhaps at this time we are approaching the harvest season, and, as you know, there is already a serious food... I also feel my people are lacking in basic intelligence, interrupted Ming. My recent proclamation gave them several excellent solutions to this alleged famine, yet they persist in agitating and ignoring my advice. He was a long, gaunt man of 50, dressed in a jeweled saffron robe. He wore a peaked skull cap on his hairless head, and he had a down-curving mustache and a wisp of a goatee. He stroked this tiny beard now. If they ignore sound imperial wisdom, Eric, then they must suffer the consequences. We will have 5 additional public executions a week, one from each of the 5 most complaining territories. Very well, sir, said the burly Eric. A younger man, wearing clothes of a slightly military cut, was slouched against one of the arches next to a window. Seems to me we ought to revise the tournaments, he said. Ming turned his gaunt face toward the young man. As Minister of Agriculture, Haldor, you needn't involve yourself with public entertainments. Even so, said Haldor with a smile, I think the tournaments would be very useful about now. Ming leaned forward on his throne chair, placing one hand on his knee. How so? Main thing is, they take the people's minds off their other problems, said the young minister. You've got a lot of dissatisfied citizens right here in the capital, you know. Important people, many of them. People whose support, especially financial, we need. And when people like that start worrying about their food supply, There is no shortage in the capital, said Ming sharply. If certain fools and buffoons believe so, it is because you, Haldor, have not done an adequate job of explaining the agricultural situation to them. Maybe, answered Haldor, still smiling. Anyway, Ming, about the tournaments. We could round up most of the best-known troublemakers in each territory, toss them in the arena with various wild animals, possibly even a few ape-men, and... What are the advantages of all that? Asked Eric. The main thing is we get rid of a good lot of people who are against the present empire, explained Haldor. But with the tournaments, we don't do it as obviously as with public executions. Ming sighed once again. You give them credit for far more maturity than they have, Haldor, he said. Nonetheless, I think we might introduce a new series of tournaments. That will be, however, in addition to the increased number of public executions. Attend to the details, Eric, and I will issue a proclamation. Very well, sir. Ming rested his chin on the sharp tips of his steepled fingers. Yes, a touch of pageantry always goes over well, takes their minds off their fancied troubles, he said. Princess Aura will need a new wardrobe for attending the tournaments. He glanced down at Eric. Where is my daughter, by the way? Where is my daughter, by the way? Yeah, okay. Yeah, Aura is his daughter. That's right. Well, Eric stretched out the word, but couldn't come up with anything to follow it. Haldor laughed. She's out practicing democracy. Ming frowned. What do you mean? I mean Princess Aura slipped out of the palace this afternoon dressed as a commoner, replied the minister. She enjoys getting out among the people to find out they're a pack of fools, said the emperor angrily. I've forbidden Aura to do such foolish things. Eric, have her found and returned to the palace at once. My men are already scouring the city for the princess, sir, replied the burly minister of police. Haldor waited a second before saying, We have much bigger problems. Ming said, You derive too much amusement from your present position. Perhaps you would be more serious in a lower one. Perhaps. The smile remained on the young man's face. At any rate, I think we should be giving more attention to the fact that 3 people from some alien planet have apparently landed on Mongo. Apparently is a key word, the Emperor said. I have a full report on the alleged incident here. He rattled the papers in his hand. We have men scouring the jungle to locate these supposed aliens, said Eric, and to find their ship. As of now, we have only the girl. Which reminds me, said Ming, rising. I promised Captain Hicks I would join him in the interrogation of the young woman. She's rumored to be quite pretty, remarked Haldor. Pretty or not, said Ming, we'll find out soon enough if there is any truth to her story. Suppose there is. I shouldn't have to remind you, Haldor, that we have been invincible so far, Ming told him.
We shall continue to be. There is no one, be he from Mongo or some distant planet, whom the power of Ming cannot subdue. He strode toward an arched exit. You would do well to remember that. The lean sorcerer came toward Zarkov with a knife in his hand. The burly scientist, who'd been dozing against the cave wall, blinked awake. Decided to do me in after all, have you? No need to boom so, Dr. Zarkov, said Brother Beltor. My companions are trying to sleep. I am only going to cut loose your bonds. Highly wasteful, commented Zarkov, in a slightly less booming voice. Untie the knots, then you can reuse the rope. I am no good at all with knots, apologized the sorcerer. Brother Anmar will be here soon, and you'll be dining with him. If he brings any chow, added Zarkov. He has provisions, no need to worry, Beltor began slicing the ropes. You can communicate mind to mind? Yes, we worked out the basic principles before Ming banished us. Ming would be who? The Emperor of the New Kingdom, explained Beltor. After successfully overthrowing and conquering the legitimate governments of this area, he outlawed those of us who wouldn't work for him. When Zarkov's hands were free, he used them to smooth out his tangled black beard. This Ming fellow uses magic and sorcery to run his empire. Finishing his job, Beltor stepped back. We were not always sorcerers. You must forgive Beltor. He sometimes overdoes the mystifying elements in our guise. A tall, light-haired man of 40 had entered the cave. He wore a robe similar to the other sorcerers, hood back off his head. Throwing down a rough cloth sack of supplies, he said, I hope you don't mind dining on Thran. At this point I'll eat most anything, said Zarkov, even Thram, whatever it may be. It's much like your Earth rabbit, said the blond man. Read that off my brain, huh? He extended his hand. Yes, I am Brother Anmar, he said. I am happy to have a man of your intellect among us, Dr. Zarkov. So happy that you're going to let me go? I'm afraid for the moment we must keep you with us, said Anmar, for there is a particular problem we need a solution to, and you seem qualified to lend a hand. In the morning, then, we will begin our journey to the Forest Kingdom. What sort of problem? It involves a weapon, a new type of blaster cannon for aircraft, which is not turning out as expected. Weapons are right up my alley, said Zarkov in his resounding voice. I almost majored in weaponry back at the London Institute of Technology. Brother Beltor took up the supply sack, carried it toward the sooty fire. I'll begin to prepare the meal. Zarkov grunted to his feet, brushing at the legs of his work suit. I didn't come to your blasted Mongo alone, he said. Have you plucked that fact out of my mind yet? Yes, I know about Dale Arden and Flash Gordon, replied the chief sorcerer. I'm sorry we can't spare you yet to search for them. Do you know if they're alive and kicking and where they might be? Zarkov asked. Anmar gave a negative shake of his head. We haven't devised an attachment yet allowing us to tap the particular extrasensory ability needed to find out such information. Attachment? Bellowed the doctor. You've been trying to con me, is that it? You're not magicians at all, you're... Exactly, said Anmar. Scientists.
Chapter 10. A dozen wooden docks extended from the riverside, their far ends lost in the thick fog which hung over the river. The road leading downhill toward the wharf area was made of cobblestones, slick and black in the misty night. A small settlement had grown up at this spot at the great river. About 20 low buildings of wood and stone clustered randomly along the shore. Narrow lanes, some paved with stones, others merely twisting paths of mud, ran through the ramshackle town. Flash moved slowly through the foggy streets. Round his shoulders was the dark cloak he had borrowed from the now bound and gagged Harn. Shouldn't be too difficult to spot an airship around here, Flash said to himself. It was his intention to commandeer the police craft, use it to fly somewhere near the capital. Then he would take Dale away from Emperor Ming. But before he could work out the details of that rescue, he would have to get a look at the Emperor's city. From some of the windows of the wharf town came fuzzy yellow light, and out of one ramshackle building, smoke and noise and gruff laughter came tumbling. A crude sign nailed unevenly over the door announced this was the One-Eyed Mariner Cafe. A moment later, Flash passed its wide-open doorway. Someone came flying out into the night to land with a huge thumping splash in the muddy lane. "We may not love being here," shouted an angry voice from the cafe, "but we'll have none of your revolutionary talk." "More's the pity," replied the man who'd been thrown to the street. "Perhaps you didn't quite comprehend." "He needs more of a lesson, I'm thinking," cried another rough voice. "Let's teach him a good one, the shaggy rogue." Flash turned to watch. The man on the ground was big and broad, wearing a leather tunic and a short kilt-like garment instead of trousers. He had a great mane of yellow hair, a thick beard to match, and it showed swishing as he stood, a 3-foot long tail with a tuft of yellow fur at its tip. "Come on, then," challenged the Lion Man. "Let us see how you fare against Ton." "Let us see how you fare against Ton." I think that's how you're supposed to say it. A large man with a spiky black beard said, "You've got no fight in you, you overgrown tabby." Shoulders hunched, he came stalking toward Ton, the Lion Man. But another man had materialized out of the swirling fog. He was moving silently toward the Lion Man's back, carrying in his hand a short wooden club. "Behind you," warned Flash. Without turning, the Lion Man dropped to his knees, his tail slapped at the unseen assailant as the man's swung club hit nothing but air. Before Ton could rise, the black-bearded man leaped atop him. Another man ran from the inn to join the struggling pile. The man who tried to club Ton reached through the laces of his loose-fitting tunic and drew out a knife. "No, you don't." Flash's right hand chopped down. "Hey!" The knife dropped to the mud. The man swung a blow at Flash. Grinning, Flash sidestepped, catching the fist. He sent the man spinning away, and the fog swallowed him. One more big man, this one with a soiled black patch over one eye, hurtled out of the cafe and piled on. The three of them were pummeling the roaring Lion Man. "Even the three of you can't keep me down," roared Ton. "I'm a better man than a lot of you." He jabbed a fist into the chest of the one with the spiky beard. "You're no man at all. You're but one step from going on all fours," came the reply. As much as he wanted to get on and find the airship, Flash stayed. He bounded to the struggling mound of men. "This isn't a fair contest," he said, as he grabbed hold of the man with the eye patch. "If you're the One-Eyed Mariner himself, you'd better attend to business." He yanked the big man free of the tangle, sent him stumbling toward the hazy doorway of the inn. "Much obliged," gasped Ton. "I can handle these other two on my... Oof." A hand shoved his face down into the mud. Flash caught another man by the shoulders. He sent him cartwheeling into the fog. Seconds later, there was a sound of a body breaking through the rotten wood. A great splash followed. "Might as well get rid of this last one," said Flash. He reached out toward the bearded man, who was slamming Ton's shaggy head against the ground. Then something hit Flash behind the ear. Hit him hard twice. Then once again. The fog thickened and thickened incredibly fast. Then everything turned a glaring black and Flash fell.